welcome back to another episode of Bodies, Barbells and
Bagels.
We are at episode 19 and we are smashing out the start of this year. 4 episodes in really
4
January.
weeks.
Yeah.
Well,
So
3 weeks.
you're welcome.
Happy 2019.
That's it. So we are off to a cracking start and we want to keep that consistency going. Today's episode, we're basically going to alternate between having guests on and or having us do a Q&A or a topic specifically, so that obviously you guys are here because hopefully you want to gain a little bit of education from us as well as the guests we have on. So thank you everyone. We got great feedback from the episode with Joe Menzel as well as our goal setting one, as well as our IFBB podcast. If you want us to maybe get on other federations, so maybe we'll get on Chase Up Sam Trill from ICN.
Yeah.
And then maybe we'll hunt down someone from WBFF and different feds. If you guys are keen for that, then let us know. But yeah, today we're going to do Q&A and a bit of a relationships podcast. Now, we preface this by saying we are no relationship experts. We are not qualified in any way, shape or form, but we can speak from personal experience and just be honest with you guys about what things have worked for us. I mean, this has probably been the healthiest relationship I've ever been in, so, yeah.
I'd agree.
Yeah?
I thought about it for a second, but...
I don't know why you did, because you had some awful ones.
I've had some shockers, yeah. I don't know. But yeah, learning how to work on the relationship to keep it 100%.
Yeah, it's not easy. You don't just find the perfect person and go, oh, this is it. Like, you got to actually work on it, so... That's what we'll be getting into later. So we'll start with the Q&A because I got a ton of messages on Instagram. So thank you so much for those. Some of the ones that are a little more private, I won't shout out your name, but I'll shout out those who obviously wouldn't mind being shouted out. But let's kick off today's podcast with our For Him and For Her tip for the week. So starting with you.
All right, well, I found that this week... online and inquiries and a couple of PT, and this is actually female and male, but a lot of people are complaining about shoulder issues, and the one thing they always blame is bench press. And it's not the bench press that cause you to injure your shoulder. More often than not, it's not the exercise of any sort that caused the issue.
If you've got good form.
No, it's your shit that caused the issue, as in like your shoulders were already buggered, your posture that day was already buggered. We've got things like so much technology these days that cause you to round your shoulders, round your back, the way you sit, the way you drive, the way you eat, you're constantly on your phone, all these sorts of things is all internal rotation of the shoulders. So it's not the bench press that hurt your shoulders, it's your internal rotation. So
lack of mobility. My
tip is basically, is respect mobility and work out what you need to do. Like there's certain preset mobility drills that we will kind of put everyone through, but at the same time it's like, that's why we do videos and stuff with our clients, sometimes even mobility videos. It's like, why the fuck am I getting you to
film a dumbbell external rotation
or a broomstick up and over to check your shoulders, because everyone's different, but more often than not we all need to work on external rotation. You want basically a 1-to-1 ratio at least of push and pull. You'll see that guys just want to push. National Chest Day, which is Monday through to Sunday. So it's, 1-to-1 ratio of that. Work on your external rotators. So, that band work, pin your elbow in, externally rotate the hand around.
So I guess explain for people in layman's terms what actually is an external rotator, because you've mentioned that a lot, but I'm sure there's some people that don't know what that means.
Basically, in regards to the shoulder, you're trying to get the hand, if you were to pin your elbow into your rib cage with your thumb pointing up, you're trying to take your hand away from the body. So it's rotating around the body outwards. Internal rotation is rotating towards the body. External rotation, rotating away from the body.
So if we're talking upper body, what are sort of the muscle groups that we're wanting to strengthen to assist external rotation?
All the ones around the shoulder, basically. All your rotator cuffs. You want to really hit your rear delts, your mid traps, your lower traps. You want to hit all of the the rotator cuffs. We'll just group them into one thing. Rhomboids, all of those. Basically pulling the shoulders back, pulling them down.
Teres.
Yeah, all your teres group. And obviously the big bad lats as well.
Yeah.
But that's why I say 1-to-1 push and pull ratio. I actually like to start my push sessions with some back sessions. So some back exercises. So some light lat pull downs, some light rows, some external rotations on the cable or of a band, some trap 3 raises.
It's also going to like enhance your pressing position, because if you're 100%. Focused on external rotation and pulling back, when you set into a bench press, you'll be able to really engage your lats into the bench, which a lot of people don't do.
No.
It's probably the worst thing I see when I see a bench press.
Yeah.
And like, without sounding cocky here, but I can bench a fair bit for a female, but a lot of that honestly is upper back strength.
Yeah.
Because you'll see I really wrap my shoulders and everything down, and again, externally into the bench. Squeeze
the bench.
The worst thing you see people doing on a bench press is just pressing the weight.
Yeah.
They're not thinking of it as somewhat of a pull and a set and then a push. Like,
I always think, shoulders back and down, and then try and push yourself down into the floor rather than trying to push the weight up to the ceiling.
So the same as a deadlift.
No.
Like,
exactly. Yeah.
You know, you're trying to push the floor away. Yeah. Think the exact same thing when you're bench pressing. You're trying to push the bench into the floor. So you're trying to really drive back and down.
Yeah. So pretty simple. External rotation, respect mobility, and 1-to-1 ratio of push and pull.
So what is the actual external rotation also going to enhance, other than just your pressing position? What's it going to do in terms of muscle activation?
Not sure I understand.
So, I guess because I don't want to say the answer, so I'm going to let you
explain
it. Oh, well, what I basically mean is I think it's been important that people understand why you do the mobility work from a positional standpoint. So it's going to get you into a better lifting position. But that in turn is going to result in better muscle activation of the groups you're actually trying to fire.
Of course.
So what I mean by that is if you are, say, doing bench press and you're not warmed up through external rotation and you don't have that thoracic extension, then you're going to result in your front delts being overloaded rather than your pecs.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I mean.
Think about pulling your shoulders back and down on a bench press. You're going to get a bigger stretch through the pecs.
So you're going to get a bigger chest.
Yeah, so you're going to get bigger A to B. Yeah.
You're going to be able to grow better because you get a bigger range of motion. You get a bigger stretch on the muscle. More stretch, more muscle damage, more growth, hypertrophy.
And a bigger thing than that is not only are you going to be able to train better, but you'll find that your posture will get better. So you'll drive better, you'll feel better when you sit down and eat. You won't sort of be hunched over all day long.
Yeah, less injuries. So I would just roll that onto the females for her tip of the week. So many females, one of the biggest things I always get them to send me is an overhead press, either a dumbbell press or a barbell press really will unstick people. And the reason I'll get them to do that is because, especially with a barbell press, even a dumbbell press, but I'll get them to film it from the side. And that's really important so that you can see the bar path or the dumbbell path. And a lot of the time you'll see people pressing forward. So the weight in the top of an overhead press or a dumbbell press will end up in front of their body. When really it should be about in line with your ears, I always say, around that kind of range, in line with your shoulders rather than in front of your shoulders, because then you know you're actually pushing more, again, from your front delt, from your upper traps, from all the areas that as a female we don't really want to grow. Maybe front delts, but not so much your upper traps. And because I probably used to press like that, looking back at things, and my shoulders didn't grow. I just grew in all the wrong areas. So from a growth standpoint for a female as well, it's super important to work on external rotation, even so that you can get in, better positions to do other movement patterns that are also going to grow your delts. So yeah, as a female, most important areas for mobility, I would say in a general sense for anybody listening to this podcast that we see in terms of tightness would be external rotation, support external rotation in the shoulders, through the pecs and chest, then probably neck extensions, so having poor neck mobility, which I know sounds weird, but tight traps, also sitting in, like Sean said, bad posture, driving all day, texting on your phone, looking down, basically.
I call that tech neck.
Tech neck, and then obviously tight hip flexors from sitting. Hip flexors is a very grouped general term, so that could be maybe your quads or your adductors, adductors, could be more in your psoas, in like different areas. So you've got to really figure out when someone says you've got tight hip flexors, it's kind of a general term.
Which one is it?
Yeah, where is it? Because hip flexor isn't a muscle, so it's a group of terms. It's almost like saying your IT band's tight, your iliotibial band. It's like, well, what part of your IT band is tight? Is it, your sartorius, or is it your part of your hamstring insertion, like where
TFL
really...
will be tight, which will tighten up your IT band.
Exactly. So I think being specific is really important. Lower back, that comes from generally poor posture. Again, sitting all day, really bad activation of the glutes, not training the glutes, bad lifting form, rounding, poor posture in the gym. And then ankles. Ankle tightness and mobility is a major one that we see, especially with girls wearing high heels. Sean, are you wearing high heels?
No, I've just got apparently large calves.
Okay, there you go. So large, tight calves potentially as well, overfiring calves.
How's yours? Because you've got some pretty creamy calves.
Yeah, I've got shit ankle mobility
Yeah,
because I snapped some ligaments in there.
Yeah, that won't help.
Yeah, so that's why I pretty much always squat with you can squat flat shoe. I can't. I can if I mobilize for like an hour. But yeah, I can on a front squat, but not on a back squat.
I'm just a very low bar squatter.
Yeah, and you've also got different lever lengths to me. I've got really long quads, so even if my ankle mobility is good, it's still going to be hard for me to get in a good position with depth without a little bit of an elevation.
Yeah.
So all those things are factored in. Any other areas that you'd say are kind of the main common ones that people need to work on?
Thoracic extension.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a big one. Again, that will come into external rotation and kind of chest up. Yeah. I think almost everyone is really. I haven't really seen too many people that have got massive thoracic extension, especially guys. You know, like I have to really work on differentiating between lumbar and thoracic extension. I tend to have a lot, and a lot of people tend to have a lot of movement. Yeah, they can move the lumbar really, really. Watch someone do a lat pull down; they'll lean right back.
Yeah.
As opposed to if you spin around, put the pad into their lumbar spine, and then get them to lean over the pad and do a lat pull down. It's really fucking hard, but you'll feel your lats go.
I think a good example of that extension through the thoracic is really basic one that you can do. But if you stand and you just go to touch your toes with straight legs, I can do that easily. My hands will pretty much get on the floor. My hammies are mobile. Yeah. Now, if I do that same thing sitting and stretch forward to touch my toes, completely different. Okay. A lot tighter because I'm actually then trying to extend more through my back.
That's true.
So give that a try. And if you find it a lot harder seated, then that might be an idea that your thoracic is a little tight and needs to be a little more mobilized. Because I know that I sucked when I did yoga and Pilates. There were a lot of those sort of positions where I had to sort of stretch forward. There wasn't a lot of extension there. So I find that I have backwards extension, but not a lot of forward flexion. So, yeah. All right. So that was the long-winded thing that her tip this week. So do your mobility. And just, start to be in tune with your body. I think that's a big thing. Because when we work with clients, especially me doing more online, it's much easier for Sean in the gym. But when you're working with someone online, they need to tell you these things. If they're training and they're like, yeah, okay, and we've got exercises and videos and things that our clients can utilize as tools, but pay attention to it and be like, oh yeah, coach, when I was squatting, the reason that I wasn't hitting depth was because it felt like my ankles were really tight or it felt like my hips were really tight. Because when we watch a video and you're not hitting depth, we're going to then ask you those questions. Yeah. Okay, well, where felt tight? Rather than just saying, hey, coach, I can't hit depth. Yeah. So be aware.
Are you just being a massive pussy?
Exactly. Are you just scared of failure? Which is another one. I'd say it's one of those three. So really just write notes. Keep a training journal. I have, even though I'll have a printed program, I'll keep a little diary and I'll write down Wednesday, felt tight in my lower back when deadlifting. Okay, maybe too much volume the week before. And you can kind of use it as a bit of a gauge and give this feedback to your coach. Because again, your coach isn't in your body and they're not there every single day. But the more info you can give them, then the more educated decisions and changes that they can make. Because unfortunately, not everyone can afford the luxury of having a personal trainer every single session.
No, of course not.
Wouldn't that be great? But if you are working with someone, the more info you give them, the better.
Yeah.
My clients that tell me nothing and just check in and go, lost weight this week, and I'm like, that's great, but how's your training, you know?
It's so when you get those check-ins that are enormous and then they apologise for it being enormous, it's like, no, that's good.
Yeah, because I have to ask less stuff back. It's more efficient if you give more information. Yeah. So that's a big part of coaching. Okay, so let's get into the Q&A.
Gosh.
I think we'll just kind of take in turns with them, or maybe if it's an area that we're more specific with. So my first one is from one of your clients, so Ashley. So hello, Ashley.
Oh, hi.
So you can answer this one. So Ash wants to know how to maintain motivation without a threatening goal. So if somebody's not chasing her down with a knife, how do you maintain motivation?
other than intrinsic.
Yeah, well, I mean, let's say what she means by a threatening goal is, let's say you don't have to lose 5 kilos in the next couple of months.
There's not a wedding coming up and you don't want to look fat in your wedding dress.
Exactly, yeah.
I mean, it's... To be as quantitative as possible is a good thing. So obviously, if you're going to be training for more and more volume and hitting bigger weight targets and all that sort of stuff, that's one way, because you are obviously increasing your output.
Yeah.
So finding other methods other than just weight loss is a good one. So that's why I tend to set people weight targets and equate their volume as well.
Have you and Ash done that this year?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, she lifted some big weights last year. We went through a big strength phase. Now we use that new strength to hit more volume and do some horrible, nasty shit. Yeah. I've got her front squatting because she's really tall.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's a good one.
Someone was trying to call me and it's paused the podcast. What the fuck? It's still going there. Okay, I'm going to have to edit that bit out. I don't know why, because I just put it on the mode to not be disturbed.
15 minutes. What's mine?
Let's see how it says 15:30 there.
Yeah.
But then on the thing, it's still recording.
That's weird.
So when I exit it, it says it's not still going. Okay. Just keep going.
So quantitative is a good one. Motivation kind of comes from external as well. So, a really simple thing is watching some decent YouTube videos and stuff like that. Like as a guy, it's kind of easier because we can just watch bodybuilding videos and all that sort of stuff, because once you see bloody Roddy Coleman shifting 800 pounds to reps and getting shredded for his comp, it's easy. I find it's harder for you girls.
Not really.
I
disagree.
Still,
there's some girls out there lifting some really big numbers. Go watch Steph Cohen lift.
Oh, Jesus, yeah.
She lifts more than the dudes.
Oh, that's crazy, that girl.
I think, watching people lift is motivating, and I think seeing them progress. Yeah. So if it's someone that just always lifts that heavy, I don't find it that motivating. But if I've seen them progress over, a period of time.
And there's someone you can semi-relate to as well.
Yeah.
If they're enormous and nothing similar to you, and a freak of nature, then it's probably, I love to watch all the strong men, but I don't really find it motivating for the gym because they're not really someone that I'll be like. So I find someone that's similar to me. But yeah, that's one thing. I think seeing results is very motivating.
Yeah, physically or numbers in the gym.
Yeah, so staying on top of all of this and checking in with your coach constantly to make sure you have constant targets, whether it's weights, whether it is a little bit of weight loss here and there, whether it is getting all your steps in, whether it's... What else do you use?
For motivation?
Yeah.
I'd say a big one, and I'm going to go a little bit different with it on this route, but a big thing is remember your why. And whenever you're feeling a moment of like, oh, I can't be fucked going to the gym today, remember your why. Like, remember back to, okay, why am I training? What is the point?
Where were you when you started?
Another big one is gratitude.
Yeah.
That's probably my biggest motivator. If I'm feeling like a brat and I don't want to go to the gym, or I don't want to eat well that day, or I don't want to track or whatever it is, I just want to go eat a pizza, I'm like, you know what? There's a lot of people out there who are either really struggling with weight loss and really overweight, and I'm here being a brat at my healthy weight, wanting to eat like a dick. Or there's somebody out there who has lost their legs or limbs, and I find people really inspiring that have been through big struggle and still train, and I'm not able to show up. Like, what's my problem?
Yeah, when you see Brant running along the coast,
Brant Garvey, legend, if he's listening.
You're like, I'm tired today, and Brant's like, I've got one leg.
Yeah, shut up.
Like, all right, well, I'll shut my mouth.
Brant used to do like one-legged pull-up burpees in the gym that I first ever worked at, and I'd look over and see him, and I remember I was comp prepping, and here's me complaining about, being on low calories, and then he said something to me like, it's a choice. And I was like, you're exactly right. Like, if I don't want to compete, I don't have to. And he's done Ironman with one leg. So I think a big part of motivation is fuck motivation, and remember that motivation isn't going to be there every single day, but you can be grateful and remember your why for why you're going into the gym, why you want to be healthy, why it's important to be physically fit. Think about the bigger, also some of the positive benefits that you get from it is a good way to think about it. So rather than just going, no, I'm going to go to the gym, I'm not losing weight, or I'm not getting any stronger right now, I'm kind of at a maintenance phase, which is where people find it the hardest to get motivation. then go, okay, well, I'm also getting the benefit of improving bone density and, improving maybe my cholesterol levels, doing all of these other things. So I would say, don't be a brat. Write down your why, write down what you're grateful for, and get your ass to the gym, because motivation is going to disappear all the time, and make it become a habit as well would be my next one.
Yeah. That's cool.
If it's routine, if you're setting it in your diary like an appointment, all of those things, then it's going to become easier and easier, and you won't actually need as much motivation because it's just a part of your daily life. You need motivation for tasks that you don't really want to do. So I think that's a big one. So I know a little off topic, but
no, not really.
I think but it's a thing that people always ask, how do I get motivation? It's like, well, stop chasing motivation and instead focus on gratitude, why, purpose, what's the point? What am I going to achieve from it? I think about the positive benefits is going to get your ass in there, rather than going, oh, it's an hour of my day and like I could just watch Netflix. So
but that's it. It's an hour of your day.
Yeah.
I
think that's enough on that one.
That's a good one.
Thanks, Ash.
Cheers.
All right. So, okay, this is a good one, and I get asked this one all the time. How do you train with the goals of recomposing? So, first up, what does recomposition even mean?
Basically, changing your body fat that you're currently holding and your muscle mass.
Yeah.
Muscle mass you want obviously the muscle mass to go up, body fat to go down.
Okay.
More often than not. You tend not to really want your muscle mass to go up anymore.
No.
Every guy, muscle mass up, body fat down. You, muscle mass, current.
No, I can barely fit in my clothes anymore.
Yeah.
Yes, some of that is body fat, but yes, I've also put on a lot of muscle. So, yeah, it's different for females. But a lot of the girls, and the girl asking this does want to make gains. Yeah. So, and I've had a lot of the questions were, how do I build muscle and lose fat? Okay, at the same time.
The age-old question. Potential myth.
Yeah. So I guess starting off with that, recomping, look, if you lose body fat, you are automatically going to look like you gain muscle. Yeah. I think it was Paul Revelia that did a really good video about that, and he was like, how to look more jacked, lose 10 pounds, you know?
And wear a really small t-shirt.
Wear a small t-shirt, wear fitted clothes, don't wear something baggy, don't wear black, wear light colours, get a tan,
tan and a
all
haircut.
of those
Have
things.
A shave.
Which it's true. Like, it's all about, illusions, so to speak, when it comes to training, because the more fat you lose off your midsection, your shoulders are going to look bigger. You're going to look more jacked in your upper body. Yeah. All of those things. So if you're wanting to recomp, I would start by losing body fat and then I would focus on muscle growth afterwards. Yeah. Because then you can kind of see what you're playing with. Obviously, unless you are smashing yourself into the ground and on low calories already, then maybe you want to do a reverse diet first. But I think you've got to decide what's more important to you. Like, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Yeah. Like, do you want gains or do you want to lose body fat?
It's this, like, when you ask people, what do you want, what's your 2019 goals for the year, and they say the same thing. Yeah. I want to build muscle lose fat.
Well, which one?
All right, well, let's think about phases of training.
Yeah.
So that's what I'll say is phases of training is something you have to decide upon. And really, let's look at is there anyone who can build muscle and burn fat at the same time? Yes. Yeah. Brands, but it's basically 3 types of people that we can go into. Yeah. One is an absolute newbie. Mm-hmm. I know that when I first started training, I was basically a super skinny kid wanting to grow. Yeah. So as soon as I pumped in all the calories and started actually training, I wasn't doing a lot.
So I don't think I ate enough when I first started training, so I probably didn't put on any muscle. I think girls make that mistake. They get in the gym and then don't eat enough.
Yeah, because you go to the gym probably to lose fat, not to eat lots of food. Or they go
to the gym to put on muscle without gaining fat, and then they won't eat enough to actually make gains, so they won't change at all, which is probably what I did the first few years of training, because I would then jump on the scales and my weight would go up 1 kilo and I'd be like, oh my God. Fuck. And then I'd realize, well, isn't your goal muscle growth? Like, the scales are going to go up, but I couldn't handle that, so I'd be like, just eat less.
That's a hard one for girls, is I want to put on muscle mass, and then they see the scales going up and see it's a bad thing. It's like, well, that's got to happen. But, all right, number 1 is a complete newbie. Mm-hmm. You're an empty sponge waiting to grow. Like, I put on 20 kilos in my first year of training. Naturally, yeah. And probably got leaner.
How much of that do you think was muscle?
Well, I was 50... Actually, it was over 20, because I was 57 kilos when I really started weight training, and then after... It wasn't even a year, it was about 10 months. Mm-hmm. I was 82 kilos, so I don't know, like... I was 24 years old when I started, so you can't really say it's because I was growing. Mm. So I would say a lot of it.
Yeah.
I would say most of it, muscle or bone density, maybe. I don't know. I know they say you can lay down calcium deposits until you're about 22 to 25 years old. So I'd say my bone density went up because I was quite a skinny, frail kid. And then all of a sudden I've got these fucking thick wrists and thick ankles and a big, thick jaw now.
Yeah.
So newbies, number one. They can do both. Steroids... Number 2.
I don't think we're listing
those. But let's skim over that one.
Let's not condone
that. That's number 2. Number 3 is very, very, very overweight people.
Yeah.
Because you're storing so much energy in your body that you can use that energy in a very big calorie deficit to do both.
Yeah.
But even then, not very likely.
It's minimal.
It's very minimal.
It's usually like, decent fat. It's either one or the other in a more bigger capacity. So you're either going to lose a ton of fat and maybe put on a very small, minuscule amount of muscle, or you're going to put on a ton of muscle and only gain a small amount of fat.
Which is,
So I think you've kind of got to accept, okay, which one of those is more important to me? The other time that I definitely see it happen is reverse dieting. So sometimes when I'm reverse dieting a client, and that is almost like kind of newbie gains again, because you've kind of come out of a big, long calorie deficit and you start to bring calories up and someone stays lean. They may not be losing body fat, but they might be staying lean. They could be losing a little bit of body fat.
Well, you can keep the same body fat in kilos.
Yeah.
Which technically means your body fat percentage is coming down.
Yeah, and then you get that bit of that. That would be what we would compose as recomping.
Yeah, and I think that's where people it's the semantics of it. Is you haven't actually got leaner. Your percentage has changed.
Yeah.
But you still have 15 kilos of fat on your body.
Yeah.
You know,
I guess like the last one that I want to touch on is, I do want to touch on drugs a little bit for females in particular, because I think for guys, you can tell when a guy's on steroids, okay? It's pretty obvious.
More often than not.
Maybe not like your fitness models and things like that. It's a little more like a jacked bodybuilder. You're going to be like, okay, like you've put on 20 kilos in like a year.
If you're 100 kilos plus, probably.
Now for females, like this is a topic that needs to be discussed more.
Yeah.
But it's when you see a female, and this is a generalization, so don't go pointing fingers online, but just pay attention. If you see a female who is year-round shredded, and I'm talking low body fat, like, 8 to 10%, but for somehow they're putting on muscle as well, it's going to raise a few alarm bells.
And lifting very heavy weights.
And lifting heavy
Can
and
you
getting
lift very
stronger.
heavy weights when you're frail and...
Not the last 4 to 6 weeks of prep.
You feel pretty shit.
You feel shit. So... It's a very big generalization, I know that, so don't go pointing fingers, but at the same time, as professionals, they're the warning signs that we see, that if somebody is, lean, very dry, very potentially vascular for a female, all of these things can be kind of warning signs. Other big ones are acne, bacne, voice changes, all of these things. And some girls just have skin problems, myself included. Yeah. So I definitely don't think that you can just pinpoint a little bit of acne as that. But if it's in line with maybe all of those other symptoms, they're just getting more muscular, staying super bloody lean, never needing an off season for some reason, and their body's changing, then they are either a immerse outlier or they are taking something. So I think that we need to be real about what products females could potentially be taking, and they may be on some form of mild anabolic, maybe also with a potential cutting agent. So, maybe T3 and Anavar or something like that. Yeah. Like we're not going to go...
Clen caffeine.
Yeah, and I was super naive to this till I met Sean. So I basically just thought everyone was natural and that, that's just what people did, and like I didn't understand it.
You were so cute.
Yeah, and then
Your
he's like,
brain.
They use growth hormone and this and that. And I was like, I just thought I had a shit metabolism. And you're like, no. So that's the other thing. Don't think that you have a shit metabolism because you see someone online that probably also maybe edits their photos and takes their best angles and all of these things, and they are staying lean and jacked year round, and you're confused as to how they're doing that. Now, also remember, this is like 0.0001% of the population that looks like this. So you're not an outlier. They're potentially an outlier or potentially taking something. So be honest with yourself. Be kind to yourself. Understand that there is drugs out there in the fitness industry. and that if females choose to take that, I actually have no issue with that.
No.
I only have an issue if they lie about it. But if they choose to take that, also know the side effects. I'm going to have Victoria on the podcast, and we're actually going to talk about drugs and the fitness industry, which will be awesome. But also know the side effects. Like, if you're naive enough as a female to start taking, say, an anabolic at 21, 22, and you're not thinking about the fact that maybe you want to have kids when you're 25, 30, you may not be able to. You could make yourself infertile, or you can have a really rough time then trying to get pregnant. Because what is an anabolic doing to a female body, really? It's
anabolic, it's androgenic hormones.
Yeah, so you're decreasing the amount of progesterone,
Female
estrogen,
hormones,
increasing testosterone, all of these things. Or you may end up, I see a lot of women who have been honest about it come out, and now they have PCOS, and now they have this and that, and so many problems. There's been some great girls that have come out online and talked about it. So I think that, and you can do enough damage without drugs, just with dieting alone. That's what I've learned. Now I look at it, and it took me 2 years to get my period back, and I'm still getting my menstrual cycle, and I'm ovulating and all of those things, and we're still having a slow time getting pregnant, and I haven't done those. I haven't done those things. So imagine if you did do those things and then threw all of that in. It's just a dangerous road to go down. So stay natural.
Choose your motivators and your idols.
Carefully.
Are they someone that's relevant to you and your goals and your ethos of training and staying natural? If they're not, probably choose some new ones.
Yeah, and like we said,
you won't look like that.
Or there's nothing wrong with following people that are using things, but also make sure that they're either honest about it, or they're not, what's the other word to say it? They're not doing it in a stupid way.
Yeah.
Because there is stuff, and obviously I'm not going to promote this, but there is things that you can do in a more healthy fashion.
Creatine.
Getting all your blood tests done, working with a professional, all these things, not just going to the fucking random bodybuilder in the gym and him being like, take this, you'll get jacked. Like, that's how you mess yourself up. Like,
the boyfriend that puts his missus on trend.
And I had a girl that her boyfriend was her coach, and he put her on testosterone. And she was a bikini athlete.
I
said, was it actually testosterone? She goes, yeah. And she told me the type or whatever, and I had to ask you, so don't just listen to any old jack dude in the gym when it comes to that. There's a reason that it's illegal, and that is why. So okay, next one, we've gone on a drug route now. So any easy ways to structure your workouts at the gym? A bit of a lighter one now.
Easy ways to structure your workout at the gym. How many days a week are you training is a big place to start.
So start with frequency,
So frequency of how many days a week you're going to train.
How long you can train for.
If it's really short, like you can only do 30 minutes, then you're probably... I would say biggest bang for your buck.
Yeah.
Every time you step in the gym, the less days you have to train, the more bang for your buck you want from exercises.
Yeah.
The more days you have to train, the more you can split the body up.
Yeah, what if someone doesn't... Time's not a variable, they can train whenever, how many days, then how do you make that choice of what you do?
That comes down to your importance of what you're trying to build or grow on in the gym. Yeah. What are your goals? If you're someone that wants a big, huge booty, chances are you probably need to train your booty 3 times a week, which eats into training other days, other parts.
Or 2 days, but a ton of volume. So, look at your total working sets, your total working volume. That's how I would structure your plan, is I would start off with looking at what you're doing now, how much volume are you doing now, and what is your goal. And if your goal is to either grow or fat loss, then you probably need to increase your volume slightly. So what I mean by volume is obviously reps times sets times weight. Look at it in terms of that for a total workout, and then start to put together a plan. So that's really how we work out our clients' plans. And then we go, what do we need to work on? Like Sean said, pick the exercises that you need to do more of, and do them with more, like Sean was talking about before, like a 2-to-1 ratio of whatever. And then disperse that load across the week. The other big thing that I always say is that probably coaches, when I'm mentoring them, that they mess up the most when they're running programs that I'm checking the programs on. So I check all the programs that say Jess writes in Team Round. And the biggest thing when she was learning, because she's obviously become such an awesome coach now, was that she used to put stuff in on back-to-back days where the client would just get broken. So it would be like deadlifts, and then the next day squats and back extensions, and then the next day hip thrusts and leg press, and I'm like, you can't do so much like lumbar loading 3 days in a row. So think about the sequence and the flow when you're going to have off days. Does it flow together? Yeah, what else?
How many times a week have you trained that muscle, basically? Like, we're advocates of obviously evidence-based coaching, and there's a point where you can overtrain a muscle and you'll just start to break down. So more often than not, it's 2 to 3 times a week maximum. I mean, they say you can train some muscles more than that, but really, do you need to train the muscles more than 3 times a week? Probably not, unless it's a synergist, someone that's helping another exercise.
Because also, if you're training it too frequently, you may be a little scared of going heavy because you're like, oh, well, I won't recover for tomorrow. Because I used to find that with glutes. If I trained them more than 3 times, I'd be like, oh, I don't want to go too heavy because then my butt will be sore and I've got to train them again the next day.
But yeah, I would say workout. You want the minimum dose to get the maximum results. So do you need to do 6-7 days a week? Probably not. I like to start people as low as possible with the aim to increase.
Think of it like dieting. Like, you want to eat the most amount of calories to lose weight on. Yeah. And training's the same. So you don't need to do every single exercise to hit the glutes. You need to do a few core movements, a few different planes of motion, and start there. Yeah. And then add a couple of sets, or add, a third day, or whatever it may be. But yeah, your training should go in phases and cycles, and it shouldn't just be the same thing all the time in terms of the total volume or the total time, unless you're happy with your body and you're at a maintenance point. But if you're wanting to change...
Then you're a bastard and you're very lucky.
Well, I guess it's like me at the moment with my training. Like, I don't want to put on any more muscle, but I also want to not put on body fat. So it's kind of like, well, I still need to hit a decent amount of volume, but then I don't need to do extra volume because I'm just going to keep growing because I'm eating slightly more than obviously what I was when I was comp prepping. So I think, think about your goal, number one. Think about any injuries, any issues there. Think about what you...
Fix them first.
Yeah, how long you've got to train, how many days a week. You can disperse that over what you've currently been doing and how you're going to progress or regress. So you may need to have a deload or all those things. There's a lot to it, which is why people pay people money to write training programs, or work with a coach for a little while just to learn off them. And then you might be able to do our coaching code program, shameless plug, because a big part of that is we are teaching how to program within it, because there's a 100%. Lot to it. Like, we could do 4 or 5 hours on this.
That's why it was hard. It's hard to write, because you could do a whole year.
Yeah.
On just
4 weeks
training.
Is not a lot.
You got 4 weeks.
So we are going to be releasing those as individual units as well for people that say aren't a personal trainer, but they just want to learn about programming for themselves and don't want to do the business unit and the mindset unit. So that will probably be around the end of Feb, I would say, to early March that we're going to be doing that. Okay, so let's go on to the next one. I think that's enough on that topic for now. Random, not really a question, but someone's just written, skinny fat glutes and legs. Okay.
Skinny fat glutes and it. Well, does a skinny fat glute mean you've got no ass?
It means they've got some fat, but no muscle.
So yeah, no ass.
Skinny
so you got fat ass, but no muscle there,
and no legs. Yeah. No legs at all.
That sucks. So I would say grow both of the above.
Pretty simple answer to that one. Yeah.
Well, there you go. If that's the only thing you're picking on, then everything else seems to be fine.
Yeah.
So if we're talking about frequency, higher frequency on the glutes and legs, eat more, and grow some muscle there.
I think the hard thing is you're going to have to go through phases as well, because if you've got fat there, then it can be a little scary, like we were saying before, for females to want to allow their weight to go up. You're going to have to deal with that for a little bit to put on some muscle. Yeah. And then I would probably go the opposite. If you're really skinny but you've got a bit of body fat, put on the muscle first and then diet down, rather than the other way around. If you're very overweight and you're wanting to build muscle but also lose weight first. But if you're underweight, go the other way about it.
So you're more sensitive to gains.
Yeah, exactly. Because if you're very overweight and then you're eating a lot of calories to grow, then you can run into problems with insulin and blah, blah, blah. And
you don't grow very well when you're too overweight.
Too fat. Yeah, exactly. All right, next one. So you got to hit those legs and glutes more. How and when to incorporate diet breaks and refeeds. We've had this question about 3 times. It's such a big one that we're going to leave it and have Jackson back on the podcast. So we will bug Dr. Pios because he's just finished up. He's published his paper on it now.
Got some good results.
We'll let him talk about that because he's the expert. Now, the next one. Big one again. Recently been diagnosed with insulin resistance. Best way to diet and help reverse diet and manage this. I inboxed this lady as well about it because I said I wanted to know that she'd actually been clinically diagnosed because a lot of PTs or shitty nutritionists will say, oh yeah, you're insulin resistant, but they haven't actually done any testing just because you may be gaining weight and eating carbs, and they'll freak out and go, oh, it's the carbs' fault. So I asked her, and she said she actually has been diagnosed with blood tests as pre-diabetic. Okay. She's quite young. She's not like severely overweight or anything like that. So best ways to manage that, and why some people are potentially insulin resistant pre-diabetic even if they're not overweight.
I think some people have a genetic predisposition to it. I think this is the difference between genetics and epigenetics as well. Is some people say, oh, I'm predisposed to be fat, when in fact that's not your genetics, that's your epigenetics. So your environment has your parents have brought you. Yeah. I bet more than half the time, those people, if you went into their diet and stuff, it's not their genetics that make them fat, but just their traditional way of eating in their family.
It's basically child abuse sometimes.
It's not far off.
The way that some parents allow their kids to eat, and they say, oh, it's because I care and I give them pizza and they want it. It's like, no, you're setting up really bad epigenetics for your kid's life, and then they're potentially going to struggle with weight gain, with insulin resistance, with all of these sort of things.
Because that's when you're as a kid, that's when you're setting your body up, like with your kind of predetermined number of fat cells. So if you can stay on the slimmer side as a kid, it's a really good thing.
And the biggest thing is movement as a kid. Like, you can eat more but move more. Like, rather than, stressing about underfeeding your kid, just get them moving more.
Feed the fuck out of them and give them a tennis ball.
So I'd actually love to know more about this girl's background. Whether that was something growing up. And I don't want to sound like I am judging parents if they are feeding their kids that way, because also a lot of parents aren't educated themselves, and they've come from their parents doing that, and their parents and their parents.
It's generations changing.
If you haven't been blessed enough to have the upbringing where you've had parents who are educated roughly on nutrition and eat well, which I had and Sean had, we were both pretty lucky in that sense. But I would say educate yourself as a parent first and foremost. And one of my clients actually has a young daughter, Halija, and she messaged me the other day and she said, is there anything I could be doing for Amani now? She's this age. I want to make sure her nutrition's on point. And I loved that. She was like, is there any resources I can read? Because she just wanted to learn more about, as I think her daughter's 10 or 11, and coming into that hormonal stage of 13, 14, she was like, what can I do? How can I make sure she's getting the right nutrients? Like, it's awesome. And there's so many resources out there, even just on basic resources on like Nutrition Australia websites and stuff. They have sort of age ranges and kind of how much roughly your kids should be eating, what nutrients are important. So I think as a parent, get yourself educated, and it's a big one. Your kids might hate you, and I probably hated my mum back in the day for like not letting me eat crap, but now I thank her for it. So, okay, going back to
yours was different though, because yours was your mum just wanted to be really healthy. Mine was ADHD, so I had to eat really healthy. But anyway, we digress. I would say if you're not overweight and you're as active as you feel you need to be, then obviously, like, the unfortunate shit answer is it probably is a genetic predisposition, but that doesn't define you and mean that that's the only thing you can do and you're waiting to become diabetic. It means that you just have to be very, very on point with, okay, I need to time my carbohydrates very well. I probably shouldn't be having massive insulin spikes. I should probably lower GI stuff. Adding fiber, protein, and fats to your carb meals. Like, more often than not, a lot of people tend to smash in a shitload of fast-acting carbs, sort of peri-training, so around your training times. You're probably not gonna do that as such. You're probably gonna just think, okay, well, I need to keep my insulin in and out very stable. You can also make sure you've covered all micronutrient bases that help with this sort of stuff. Things you can I don't know if it's this or not, but there's certain insulin mimetics out there that can help with potentially taking the strain off of the pancreas to increase insulin sensitivity. I mean, they're very up in the air about whether there's a lot of science to them, but like,
Look, you could give it a whirl and test your blood sugar levels. Like,
there'd be other. There are trainers that do
there's like herbs and spices as well, so like turmeric and links like that with things, cinnamon.
Berberine extract.
Small impact, but they could be helpful, and especially if you're pre-diabetic, so you're not diabetic yet.
I think food is key at the moment. Food and exercise.
You don't need to go keto. You don't need to go that extreme. If anyone tells you that, but you probably do need to adopt a slightly higher fat, moderate carb, moderate protein diet.
Yeah.
Because remember, protein still has an impact on insulin. Yeah. So I would say you don't need to crank your protein up. You probably, if anything, maybe need to drop your carbs a bit, drop your protein a bit, up your fats a bit. And then, like Sean said, just don't eat carbohydrates on their own as well, because you're going to get a massive surge and spike in blood sugar levels. And obviously that may create a little bit of a disturbance within the body too. So, and stress your pancreas a bit. So I would say, just really making sure that you're just getting some good nutrient timing in, good quality food, with your with your carbohydrate sources, consuming fiber, and not having a ton of simple sugars within your diet. And if you are going to have some simple sugars, probably post-workout, or right at pre-workout, like Sean said. And there's probably just not a necessity for much actual processed sugar within your diet. I wouldn't avoid fruit.
Because it's got fibre in it. It's got fibre in it.
And again, time it, training or moments when you're active, if you have an active job.
You could probably it's probably kind of more fun, because a lot of people want to do lower fat, higher carb. They'll do the horrible halo top, shitty, nasty ice cream. You can go full fat ice cream, just have less.
Coconut ice cream. Yeah. Because obviously you got to be careful with the sugar content.
More stable.
But the other thing... so that's probably the most important thing, is keeping your weight at a very healthy level.
Yeah.
Obviously, gaining body fat is going to make it more difficult. And then, like Sean mentioned at the start, look, if you have been told by a doctor or whatever that you are potentially insulin resistant or pre-diabetic and you're overweight or obese, you just got to lose some body fat.
Yeah.
As simple as that. And
you get more sensitive to...
you will improve.
Yeah, insulin sensitivity.
Yeah, the leaner you are generally for a healthy person, the better insulin
99.9% of the time.
Which is why when you reverse diet people from a lean position and you throw a ton of carbs in, they stay lean.
Yeah.
They don't all of a sudden become insulin resistant because their body's metabolizing things well. Yeah. So that's why carbs are never the devil, because if you look at people like that, it's like, okay, I can see why that person's able to push their carbs up that much.
Yeah.
I'd say that would be the big one there. Okay, we're going to do 2 more, I think, because we don't want to make this podcast super long. So let's go to gut health. Had 4 questions on gut health. We have done a whole podcast on that. So if you have not listened to that, go to that episode. We'll maybe do another one in the future specifically on that. Okay, the next one I had was, and I had this from a few people, was they're all on reverse dieting. So we'll do a podcast on that. I would say... okay, next one. Cravings. Cravings take control over my mind. I try to take control but always end up binging. Okay, what do you do about cravings if you are binge eating? Is, number 1, check if your calories are too low.
Yeah.
If you have been on super low calories for a long period of time, maybe start reverse dieting, because they're obviously so low that you can't comply to them. And if they're then causing you to overeat and binge, then that's a problem. Number 2 would be look at your food quality. If you're not getting enough fiber in your diet, if you're not getting enough water, if you're not getting enough protein, then you're not going to be staying full enough if, say, you are dieting. Number 3 would be don't avoid foods. If you are craving something, have it, but have it in a small portion, or have a small portion of something you like every single day.
Yep.
So rather than avoiding it, have a square of chocolate every day, or have a scoop of ice cream. 2 squares, whatever you want. Or the other option is, if you know you can't control it, don't have it in the house. That's
your
number
thing.
4. Just don't buy it, If it's not there, out of sight, out of mind. And number 5 is, if you're having a craving for something, I would say also kind of check if you're tired, if you're lacking sleep, if you're maybe lacking micronutrients in your diet. There's been certain minor links with like zinc deficiency and magnesium deficiency, chromium and cravings. So... food quality, I would say
that's pretty much what I was going to say.
Key. Yeah.
Like, first and foremost, you need to hit your food plans or your macronutrients, your first thing in mind should be, have I hit all my micronutrients? If you haven't, then make sure you are, because cravings tend to be because your body is like, fuck, I need some such and such mineral or vitamin. So hit those first. And yeah, I think the biggest thing is if you're on a meal plan and you're being super, super strict the whole week, and then all of a sudden you get to the end of the week and you're like, fuck, I just need some chocolate.
Yeah.
Well, then stop being so strict.
Yeah, have a refeed day, have something you can look forward to, have a diet break. There's so many different things you can do.
I just think that's the joy of flexible dieting these days.
Yeah.
We're educated enough, well, we should be educated enough. There's still people that think that macros and flexible dieting is the boogeyman. But you're educated enough that meal plans, these days that are super strict just don't work because you're not compliant, you're not consistent with it. So it's like, okay, let's be more flexible. Let's put a little bit of
But then you can't be so flexible that you're then lacking all your micronutrients.
Same thing. Hit your macros first and then work out, okay, I've got 100 calories. 100 calories, that's half a chocolate bar.
80-20 rule.
I can have half a chocolate bar every damn day. You ain't going to binge. You're probably not going to eat half a chocolate bar every day.
Yeah, something that I used to like to do on prep was I'd just put like a few choc chips in my oats in the morning. Yeah. And it was just like that little bit of chocolate. But if I knew if I ate the chocolate on its own without the oats, I'd probably overeat it.
Yeah.
So it was like just little things like that you could do. Or having, a tablespoon of Nutella with something. Like stuff that's not going to blow your calories. You're still eating it with quality food.
But you've already killed your cravings and you haven't binged. And if it's small, you can fit it in every day.
The best diet is one that you can comply to. So if you're trying to eat so bloody clean that you end up binging, then that's not a diet that you can comply to. So be more realistic with yourself. Set some more realistic boundaries for yourself. If you want more tips, I've actually written a free ebook on this. So if you want that, just send me an email and say that you want the ebook. Otherwise, I think you can just go on my website on aliceround.com and there's a little link that says like how to, it's called like, check yourself before you wreck yourself. So it's basically a whole free ebook on signs and symptoms, triggers of overeating, binge eating, because obviously that was something that I've dealt with personally before and struggled with. So I put that resource together for you. So if you need that, let me know.
It's very kind of you.
You're welcome. Yeah, it's like 20 pages. I downloaded a free ebook yesterday. And it was like 2 pages. And I was like, look, I get it. It's free.
Yeah,
but still,
it's a pamphlet.
Put a little effort in.
It's not a book, it's a pamphlet.
You know what I mean? So, yeah, I probably should charge for it, but it's free because I want people to fix this problem.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do one more and then we're going to finish with a couple of relationship questions. Okay. That one's way too big, so we'll save that for another podcast. Let's finish with trusting the process, not comparing yourself to other people's food programs to you. In terms of results, how do you stop yourself from stressing about comparison?
It's a hard one, but it's funny. You can take 2 people that look exactly the same that have completely different training volume capabilities and different caloric intakes. Everyone is very, very different. Again, that comes back to genetics.
Yeah.
You don't have to define yourself by your genetics. It just means that you may need to train more than someone else to look similar to how they look doing pretty much fuck all.
Yeah, it's frustrating.
It is frustrating.
But you can't let it frustrate you. Yeah, I think like when you said like trusting the process, I think the biggest thing there is like exactly like Sean said, like there's no point in comparing because you're always in a different position to someone else. So how do you know their journey? There's no point. Like it's just a waste of time, to be honest.
I also think there's this thing where...
Stay in your lane.
There's this thing where people don't factor in that person's previous 5 years to get where they are now. Like, I find that it's easy... It's hard as fuck to put on muscle, but once you've put on muscle, it's not hard to hold it.
Yeah.
So someone looks at me and I eat 6,500 calories a day, but it's taken me 10 years to get here.
Yeah.
Now, if I'd eaten 6,500 calories before, I'd probably be a fat motherfucker.
Yeah.
Because I didn't need it. But now I need it, and everyone's like, oh, you're so lucky. Like, no, motherfucker. Yeah. Like, I work, like, my job is very physical, and I train 5 days a week. I know people that, at the same time, train more than me, have way more physical jobs than me, and are half the size of me. So everyone's very, very different. But I would just say, never compare yourself to someone else and think, oh, I want to be like that.
Yeah.
You've just got to think, okay, where do I start? Where am I now? Where do I want to get to?
If you do want to be like someone, because I think it's okay to aspire to be,
vision,
but be realistic about how long it's going to take to get there. Yeah. Like, don't be like, I'm going to get there overnight. Be like, okay, well, that person's been training for X amount of years and they, haven't been dieting all the time. They've been focusing on building muscle. They haven't been in a caloric deficit. They train consistently. They train with volume. They train on a program. Am I doing all of those things? And if you are, cool, keep going for 6 years.
That is trusting the process. Yeah, blood, sweat, and years.
Yeah, blood, sweat, and years. I like that. So, yeah, you just have to be patient, because if you are standing in the mirror watching results on a daily basis, it's like watching paint dry, and I'll say that all the time. So instead, shift your focus to training goals and not just focusing on the progress all the time. Yeah. Like, focus on other progress other than physical. And yeah, also same with like food. Like, I get super jealous when as more of a joke, not seriously jealous, but when I prep some of my clients or I'm working with a client, and a lot of my girls eat way more food than me and train way less than me, because I get them as a newbie. So I get them when they're, 20, 21, never worked with a coach before, have a good metabolism, have never had an eating disorder or anything like that. And I'm able to push their calories to 2,500, 3,000 in an off season and them not get fat. Whereas for me personally, I want to get to that point, but I've unfortunately done a lot of damage to myself from binge eating, from doing too many shows, from dieting for too longer periods of time. And I have to just accept this is where I am.
Yep.
And I also probably have a lot of things that other people want that I have, like a ton of muscle or my strength. So that, I think, focus on what you do have, and then also just be patient in the other things that you want to achieve, because if you just don't focus on watering your own grass, you're just going to end up really depressed and frustrated and probably just give up. So
it comes back to that big word, gratitude.
Yeah, exactly.
There's always something you can be grateful for.
Yeah, and I guess if you look back and said, well, what are you grateful for about when you binge ate and had an eating disorder? Well, I'm grateful because it taught me a lot of lessons, and I'm also a better coach for it. So it might not be gratitude in the physical sense, what it's done to my body, but it's helped me in other mental areas, which is really important. Okay, so we're going to finish up. We'll leave a couple more of these questions for Instagram posts and lives and things like that, but we will finish up with a couple of relationship questions. So
I'm curious. Okay.
All right, so why don't we give everyone that doesn't know who we are a very brief background on our relationship, how long we've been together, what works about it, what's the good, the bad, the ugly, I guess. So
3.5 years.
Yeah.
I would say we are very lucky at the fact that we work in the same industry.
Yeah.
But we don't work the same job. You're online and you do your training camps and mindset seminars and lots of traveling and that. I'm very hands-on physical. I'm in the gym quite a lot of the time. I'm pretty much commuting to and from the gym about 2 hours a day. So there's a lot of times that we don't spend together. But we make a really good effort to spend time together. We literally schedule in times to eat together, to go for walks together, to we can always
podcast together.
Podcast together. And I think there's more we can do. We've made
like a lot of, because I think a lot of people have said, like, you'll hear people say, oh, don't shit where you eat, like, don't work together. But to be honest, I actually think that we've managed to utilize working together as a positive. Like, we've launched a coaching code. Sean comes and helps out at my seminars and workshops when he can, and he'll film me in the gym, or I'll do things for him. And
that's just creeping.
Yeah.
You don't know I'm filming you. But...
Yeah, like, I'll send you clients and vice versa. Like, I think that I used to see that probably as a negative, but now I think I see that as a positive of, well, we can help each other. Yeah. Like, really, it's probably enhanced both of our businesses, us being together. Yeah. So I think from a business standpoint, and then also from a personal standpoint, I think that I always thought I don't want to date anyone in the fitness industry because I thought it would be better to date someone out of it, because we would have those same times at home. We'd be in each other's faces all the time. I remember when me and Sean, we moved in together quite fast after about 6 months, I think.
Yeah.
And I was a bit like, I like my space.
Because both of our leases were up.
Yeah.
So it was like, fuck it.
Kind of happened quickly. Yeah. And then I had Buffy. She was only like 6 months old, like at that time. Or maybe a little older. I think she was about a year.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I've got my dog and I've got my little life, and I don't know about moving in with this guy.
Your Scarborough bubble.
Yeah, my Scarborough bubble. We did only move up the road, but we moved to W. But I think it was a shift for me, but a positive one, and we did jump into it quite quickly. It's probably not the quickest relationship that I've jumped into, that's for sure, but definitely a fast one. So
it's funny because you said you wanted someone that's tall, slightly tanned, handsome, darker hair,
dark eyes.
no tattoos, dark eyes.
Yeah.
Literally the antithesis of me, I'm sure.
Definitely not a bodybuilder.
Not a bodybuilder?
No,
okay.
I said
well, I'm not really a bodybuilder.
I said more like someone that played sport and was athletic. It was always like my type.
I was gymnastics and trampolining and cricket, high standard person.
Now, really.
Pretend bodybuilder.
I never thought I'd date someone that's like over 100 kilos of muscle, like, you know.
Oh, thanks. All muscle.
I think the point is that you have these predisposed misconceptions, I think especially as a female, in your head of like, who's going to be my ideal partner? And mine was always like, as a kid, well, it's going to be someone who, you know, earns good money and can support me if, say, we want to start a family and a life. And, yeah, they're going to be tall, dark and handsome because I want my kids to look that way. And, you know, all
now
these...
they're going to look like children of the corn.
I know. They're
blonde hair, blue
blue
eyes. Aryan race.
It's so weird that you have all these weird conceptions of what it should be like. And I guess, like, I honestly think that the reason that our relationship is really good... Okay, 2 reasons for me, and then you can do what maybe for you from the past. So I would say number 1 for me is that I had time being single. So I was in a pretty hectic relationship from like 18 to 22, 23, and that kind of broke me. And I just like, that's when I got into the fitness industry and when I started competing. That was a horrible, toxic, nasty relationship. So if anyone's listening to this and thinks that our lives are easy, no, we've had some horrible relationships. Like that one taught me a lot. That's when I was kind of battling my eating disorder, and that person just broke me as a human being, just was so horrible to me. I was horrible back. When you're in a relationship and you're both toxic, it both becomes worse. So I'm not going to blame that on him. I'm going to say that it was both of us. It wasn't physically abusive, but it was definitely emotionally and verbally abusive. There was cheating. There was all of that jazz.
Which is worse, really. A punch to the face you'll get over. Whereas when someone beats you down or
cheats on you,
on you, you know, it can fucking
because
years.
It beats you up yourself. Because I used to think, well, what's wrong with me? Yeah. Do I need to be skinnier? Do I need to be prettier? Do I need to have bigger boobs? Like all these things. That's when I got my boob job. So I think that I had that time, and then I kind of had a few other relationships, like 6 to sort of 12-month ones after that. And then I had a more serious one that I was living with that was about a year long. It was a FIFO worker, and somebody actually asked about FIFO relationships, so I can comment on that one. And that just wasn't the right person for me. It's as simple as that. It was slightly toxic, not that bad, but we just weren't a good fit. And I think you have to accept sometimes that some people are just not a good fit for you. No. And that you got to move on. Because I think I used to think after coming out of so many toxic relationships that a relationship was going to have fights, that there was going to be ups and downs, that there's going to be massive obstacles, and that there's going to be fighting, and you've just got to make it work. And now I've realised that is not the case. When you have a good relationship. Yeah, you're going to have your ups and downs, but
you're fighting because you're not making it work.
Yeah, you shouldn't be fighting with someone for more than like a day, really. Like it should be like a couple of hours and then we're sorted. Yeah. It shouldn't be something that you're going to bed angry with and hostile and resenting that person. Like that's not a good relationship to be in. So anyway, after that FIFO one ended, I then was single for about 1.5 to 2 years, I think, before I met Sean. And that was a really good time. That was when I got my dog. I focused on myself. I was really focused on my businesses when I met Sean. My businesses were like my children. And I had enough time to also figure out who I was, because I think looking back, I used to think I was going to marry that guy that I was dating from 18 to 22, 23. And if I had have married him as the person that I was back then, because people change, and like I said, I didn't really like the person I was looking back. If I'd have married him, I would have probably been divorced by now. He probably would have cheated on me 5 or 6 times, probably had a kid with him, ended up single white female, you know? So I think that when you're 18, 19, you have no idea who the fuck you are. And I'm just going to say that because I work with a lot of clients who are young and they're still figuring it out, and they're trying to...
I don't think I knew I was when I was fucking 29.
25, 26. I'm sure we're going to say this again in another 10 years. But I think the difference is now I know I'm going to keep evolving and I know I'm going to keep changing and learning and growing. Whereas when I was 18, 19, I thought I fucking knew everything. And I was like, well, this is what life is. This is as good as it gets. So I'm just going to stay with this guy because, can't get any better. Yeah. So I think that...
Because he told you that, probably.
Exactly, yeah. So I think when you meet someone young, I'm not saying it's impossible because we have seen some really good relationships evolve from, your high school sweetheart, but it does mean you've got to put a bit more work in and go through probably a few more stages and seasons in your life together. Whereas when you meet someone when you're a little older, more self-aware, know more what you want from life, all of those things, know what you won't put up with, I think is a big one. Then I think that you also won't waste your time dating people. You will know if it's a good fit or not, and you won't put up with as much bullshit.
You'll get straight to the point.
Yeah. So what about you? What have you kind of learnt from relationships and...
Do you know what? I think there's kind of key things that you've got to think. I think number one, and it sounds really shallow, is are you attracted to that person?
Do you want to bang
There's this weird thing where people date like really ugly people because they've got a good personality. It's like, right, that's nice. That person makes you laugh and what have you. But sex is massive.
They're just your friend.
You're dating your friend, and eventually that'll get old, and you'll probably go and bang someone else who you actually want to bang. So number one, be attracted to your partner.
Yeah.
Like it fucking sucks when someone's not attracted to you.
Yeah, and that's why self-care comes in. Like if you gain a ton of weight and you're just being a slob, like not if you gain weight because you're going through pregnancy and postpartum, completely different. If some guy cheats on you then, he's a fucking asshole and a scumbag. So, but yeah, like Sean said, like self-care is a big thing. So if you meet someone and they're physically in good shape and you're attracted to that, then if they completely let themselves go over the years, but you stay in shape, then I know it sounds a bit like vain, but it's not. It's you're like, that's not what I signed up for.
Yeah, well, it is. Yeah, you don't look the way you used to. So that's number one, is be attracted to each other and stay attracted to each other. I think number two is, how is this person enriching my life?
Yeah.
If this person's coming into your life and isn't offering anything but's taking lots of things, then that's not right.
Yeah.
You've got like us, for example, we were the same. I'd been single for like 3 years.
You thought you were going to be single forever?
Yeah, I thought I was going to be single forever. And I was happy being single.
Yeah, I think I was
and
too.
you were happy being single. So it was more a case of the only person that's going to sort of break that is someone that is just above and beyond coming into my life and going to make it way better.
Yeah.
And, fortunately it did.
Yeah.
That's another thing. So are they enriching your life? And do you want to spend the rest of your life with this person?
Yeah. Have you got some of the same values and morals?
Are you moving in the right direction as each other?
Well, I said to Sean within about a month, I don't think I brought it up. I'm not like that crazy chick that's like, I want to marry you. But I think I remember the kid thing coming up in a conversation. It wasn't like a, let's have kids. It was like, so have you thought about, is that something in your future? And he basically was like, nah, I don't think so. Like, I don't really want kids.
No.
And I was kind of like, okay, crazy.
I was still very single at the
leave
time,
that in the back of your mind. You've only just met this guy. Like, he might not be the one, so it doesn't really matter. And that was something that I've always really wanted, which was one of the things that when I was single, even though I was happy, I was like, oh, maybe I should freeze my eggs, or maybe I should think about adopting, because I knew I'd probably still do it as a single female. But later in life, when I had maybe had the financial ability to do that. Or I'd just get more dogs. So it was one or the other. But yeah, and then, after a few months, I think that the conversation came back up again after a good 6 or 12 months together, when it was kind of more on the cards in our future. And Sean was like, no, I do want that now. And things changed for you. I think
I just didn't want them with my skanky exes, when someone steals all your shit and cheats on you repetitively, not really going to go, do you know what? I want to have kids with you.
You seem like a good soul.
Yeah. You've got nice morals.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And then I would say, after 6 months, that kind of changed. It was like, okay, I'm open to it. And now it's like, fuck yeah, I want some little minions.
Yeah, I think I definitely think for you the big change was that you got the dogs.
Dogs, yeah.
Because you never really thought you'd be like a dog person.
Especially
like that.
Small dogs like Buffy.
Now you're obsessed with
My mum's cat is bigger than Buffy.
And now she's your little best friend.
Now she's my best mate, yeah. We have coffee together every morning and stretch.
I think dogs are one of the best things for a relationship to see if you want kids, because if you guys both love that dog and care for it, then that's a really good sign that you're going to be good parents. Yeah. And a few of my friends that have kids said that to me, because I was freaking out a bit, and they said, you guys will be fine. You love your dogs. You're obsessed with them. You treat them well. You'll be fine. I said, so we can put them in the cage together?
I just can't wait to wear like the same outfits as
a little girl.
Little baby. I'd still wear it, yeah.
All right, so I guess in terms of one thing I do want to touch on with relationships is probably important for me and Sean, because we've both been in some nasty relationships. I think Sean's exes were probably worse than mine in the sense of what they did to him. But I used to always blame myself after that relationship, and I'd always look back and go, oh my God, what could have I done more? Could have I changed? Could I be skinnier? Could have I been prettier? Then he wouldn't have cheated. He wouldn't have done this. He wouldn't have done that. Did you ever have those thoughts of like what you did potentially wrong?
100%.
And that beats you down?
Yeah. I mean, again, it comes back to, like, I wasn't that person.
Was my dick not big enough? It's fine.
It's fine. Thanks for adding that.
Maybe it was too big.
It was too big, yeah. Well, potentially. Where's the fucking thing? Yeah, of course it does. I would say when someone cheats on you the first time, you think, okay, something's not right there. But when it's happened in 2 relationships, that's kind of what you do think. But I wasn't that person that did let himself go. So, but I just think when you ask them, why did you cheat on me and all that sort of stuff, it's that age-old annoying one of it's not you, it's me. And I think it was getting into relationships a bit young. One of them was quite young. I think we were 22, 23, something like that. So you hadn't discovered yourself. And I think that is an age where people are kind of cheating on each other, not purely because you want to cheat on each other, but because you haven't been single.
Yeah.
Second time, she just went fucking nuts.
Yeah.
You know, she's.
But again, I think going back to those relationships, not that again we are not the perfect people, but we're more self-aware.
Not far off.
In the but I think for you, it was like you have to look back, and sometimes it's not you, it's them, and that's 100% true. Because if you had an ex that was cheating on you and doing horrible things, that's an insecurity on their part, and they've got some issues they need to work through. They're either too much of a pussy to just break up with you, number one, or they, number two, have really big issues and they need attention all the time because they're needing that gratification of somebody else giving them affection because they're not getting maybe enough of it at home, but then they're not saying anything or whatever it may be. So it's their problem, basically. Like, don't blame that on you and think that you did something to cause that. I think is a big one, and know when to leave. Like, I should have left mine like within like the first year. Like,
I was pretty good with that. Like, so my second one said that she left me before I left her. Because I won all the bodybuilding comps and all that sort of stuff, and she was like, oh, you're going to get big and you're going to get, like, renowned. I want some shit.
I didn't even know who you were.
No, I want some shit natural bodybuilding comp that I didn't even enjoy that
jealousy.
much. And she was like, oh, I just left you before you left me. I was like, well, that's fucking...
That's an insecurity on her.
It's insecurity on her. Exactly, yeah. And it was a case of, all right, well, if that's in your brain, I'm not going to take you back.
Yeah.
You know, so see ya. So I left at the right time. You probably not so much.
Yeah, I think I stuck around because I think that in my case, he made a lot of promises. Oh, I'll change. Oh, and he would do big gestures, you know. I'd come home and there'd be roses all over my room and things like this after he's cheated on me. And I'd be like, oh, yeah, he's changed.
It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. That's cool. So I think making excuses for people was something that I used to do in relationships. And then also, I've been a shit girlfriend in some of my relationships. I dated 2 guys that I was pretty horrible to after that relationship because it was almost like I did to them what had been done to me. Yeah. I wasn't emotionally abusive or anything like that, but I just treated them a bit crappy. Because the funny thing was, that first guy that I had the big relationship with treated me like shit, and I seemed to like it. I stuck around. Then the next 2 guys were so nice. Like, nice to the point of making me want to vomit.
Too nice, yeah.
Too nice.
You can be too nice,
I would wake up and they'd be like, good morning, beautiful. Like, every day, like, staring into my eyes.
You need a bit of...
They're too much pussies.
A bit of arsehole in you.
If you're a strong personality like me, I think as well. So I think it was like, I went from the one extreme that if I had dated them first, it probably would have been different. But because they were after that horrible relationship, I found Mr. Nice Guy, thought that I wanted the nice guy, and then it was too much. And I figured for me, I need someone who's in between that, who can call me out on my shit, but can also be loving and caring and kind, but isn't afraid to stand up to me too when I'm being a dick. So I think that figuring out what you need in another partner. Yeah. So, like, what do you feel like is different, I guess, about me compared to your ex that you think works better for you?
I think actually being interested in me in terms of not other men. No, I think in terms of, how can I put it? Like, you're always kind of proud of me, and if I do stuff around the house or all the small stuff, you always notice. You know, I think that the small stuff like that does count, and that kind of grates on you when it doesn't get noticed. Obviously, not cheating on me is a good thing. Feeding me. What else? Yeah, I think it's pretty simple, to be honest.
Probably pushing you with your work.
Yeah.
Encouraging you rather than being jealous.
I think that's a big one. Encourage, yeah.
I want to see you do well, because I'm like, well, when you do well, it sets up our life better.
Yeah.
Like, why wouldn't you want your partner to do well? I don't understand that when people are like that. It's like, I've had actually a couple of my last one before Sean, the last big relationship, was a little similar to your ex, a bit jealous of like the fitness industry stuff and me competing and getting attention and all of those things, when it didn't bother me. It bothered them more than it bothered me. And it became a little bit insecurity on his end. He worked FIFO and he'd be messaging my housemates, where is she? And they'd be like, dude, she's at the gym, or she's like at home sleeping. Like, where else would she be?
A little bit of jealousy is kind of nice.
Yeah.
You know?
But not like messaging your housemates. Like, come on.
There was a time when I was at the water fountain in the gym, and some girl came over and started talking to me. Worst chat lines ever, by the way.
Yeah.
At Revo, yeah. And then all of a sudden I look over and Alice is staring daggers at this chick. It was pretty funny. But I wasn't an arsehole and I shot her straight down.
Of course. If I had caught him flirting, then I would have been daggers in both parties. Yeah. But yeah, I could just see you awkwardly standing there.
Yeah, I was like, what do you want?
Yeah. She's like, oh, do I know you?
Yeah.
No.
I think I know you. Oh, do you know such and such?
No.
Are we done here?
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to go train.
I think a little bit of jealousy is nice because it shows that you care. Yeah. And I don't think there's anything wrong with a bit of jealousy, as long as you're not taking it out on the other person and being like, oh, you were looking back at me, you were doing this. Like,
that's annoying.
If they were literally like innocent and just like some dude DMing me on Instagram that I don't reply to, then like there's nothing wrong with that.
I would say two more things really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
One huge thing, which is I think a massive thing in a relationship, is learning to say sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're very good at saying sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Previous exes never said sorry.
Yeah, I think that comes back to self-awareness and also ego.
Yeah.
Like, if you've got a massive ego, you're never going to say sorry because you're like, well, I'm not wrong because I'm perfect. Like, but if you know, okay, I know I'm not perfect. I know I fuck up. I know I can get a bit stressed and get a bit frustrated and maybe, you know, like blame Sean for something stupid. Like, oh, you know, like I knocked my arm today and he was in the fridge and I'm like, you left the fridge door open too far. Like,
you walked into a door.
But like, really, our arguments are as stupid as that. Like, you know, so I think that, but I think a big part of why we don't have arguments is communication.
Yeah.
We definitely communicate about everything, and in a way, and this is different to my last relationships. I used to think I communicated before, but I just yell at someone. Whereas now, approaching communication in a way that you actually want to move forward together.
Yeah.
So I'll come to Sean and say, okay, look, Sean, I'm getting a little concerned at the moment, and it is bothering me, and it's on my mind that, you know, we are going to have a kid in the future and I'm working a lot and I'm a little worried financially about how we're going to do things. So can we sit down and maybe plan out how that's going to happen and how we're going to strategize? Do we need to start putting money away? Yeah. What do we need to do? Rather than coming to him and being like, you need to work more because I'm having a baby. Yeah, exactly. Because that just sounds really selfish and bratty. Instead, coming from a place of like, this has upset me or concerned me, because if you cry and you're upset, guys are going to listen to you. But if you yell at them, they're going to be like, you're a bitch. Yeah. So I think like
somewhere in the middle is good.
Yeah, somewhere in the middle there. Okay, so last couple, we'll just do 2 questions on relationships and then we'll finish up. So we had about 10, but we'll just pick 2. So okay, a lot of people asked, I had similar questions. How do you get your partner to support you if they're not into health and fitness?
It's not really a hard one, to be honest. I mean, there's 2 things. It's either they get into it as well.
Yeah.
which is not that hard. Really, everyone should be doing...
They don't have to do the same as you.
But that's what I was going to say, is it doesn't have to be the gym. You can go for a walk together, you can go swimming together at the beach, you can go bike riding together, you can do fun...
Instead of, say, going and drinking.
You can do fun shit together, yeah. I want to try and get a day trapezing, just because it's fun, you know. It's still active and what have you.
They don't have to be a gym buddy. Like, we don't go to the gym together.
No, or get them to understand it. You know, they probably just don't understand why you're doing it as much. And do you need to spend as long as you're doing the gym?
Yeah, because you could be being a little selfish yourself. I'm not saying you are.
No.
But I think kind of coming back to we need a compromise.
Exactly.
If your partner's not into health and fitness, don't push that on them.
It's their fault.
But then at the same time, you kind of need a compromise in the middle ground. Like, I do more cardio than Sean, but I'll be like, hey, Sean, can we go for a walk together a couple of times a week? He doesn't go with me every single day. No. I'm not like, oh my God, Sean's not supporting my cardio. Like, so, you know, I think doing those sort of things together, but then also you asking them, okay, and this comes back to communication again.
Yeah.
What is it that you enjoy doing in your life to your partner? You know, what things do they enjoy that maybe you're not that into that you can kind of compromise on there too? I think it's give and take is really, really important. Like, I like really nice things in the house. I like spending money on furniture and different bits and pieces. And Sean has to say to me, like, do we really need that right now? Yeah. Like, and we kind of...
a new sofa.
Compromise.
We don't need a new sofa.
Yeah, we compromise in the middle. So I think that that's important.
I think you like to go running. I don't
make him run with me.
But I can walk fast now.
But he can't run, so I'm not going to make him run.
So, or we'll go for a bike ride.
Yeah, don't force your partner to do shit that they don't want to do, but find a few things that maybe you can do together. Yeah. Don't make them track macros if they don't want to track macros because you're tracking macros. But at the same time, like Sean said, explain to them why you're doing it. And then they can at least support you. Because if your partner explains something to you that they want to do in life, and it might not be your cup of tea, but you're going to support them because it makes them happy, then that's really the most important thing. Okay, so we're going to finish up with one last one. And that is... Okay, how do we remain happy all the time in our relationship?
We're
not happy all the time.
Well, all of the above helps. No, we're not happy all the time. But, well, we are happy all the time, but it's not the dominant emotion.
Yeah.
I would say if someone says to me, am I happy in my life? 24/7 I can say yes.
Yeah.
Because I'm in control of my life.
And if someone said, are you happy in your relationship? You would say yes, but we have our ups and downs, like anyone.
Yeah, but it's all of the above that we just spoke about. You know, a relationship doesn't just happen and work. You know, you have to think. Like the other night, for example, I was like, for no reason whatsoever, I was like, okay, I haven't cooked for you a decent meal in a while, so I thought, fuck it, I'll go buy some lamb steaks, do a nice decent salad, so when she comes back from the gym, I've done all of this, the kitchen was clean, and blah, blah, blah. You know?
Yeah, because I had mentioned that I've been feeling like a little bit disconnected.
Yeah.
Because Sean's actually been working in the gym a lot more, and his business is really thriving.
And we live further away now.
Which is what I wanted for him. I was like, I want you to be busier, but then when I work from home by myself, literally all day, sometimes it can get really, really lonely. And then often he'll train clients until say 7, and then he'll train himself. So he might not get home till 8:39. And if he's been at the gym with clients since 9 a.m, I know that's normal for some people, but we used to spend like a lot of time together at home, or at least be around each other. You know, Sean would be in his office working, and I'd be in my office, and we might have a coffee together or have a chat every couple of hours. So yeah, and I just said to him, like, I feel like I don't see you as much, and I feel like we need to, the time that we do have, make it more quality time. Yeah. So now that we do have a bit less time together, then he took that on board and did that nice thing. So it's about, rather than a lot of people just saying, oh yeah, I'll do that, it's actually taking action. Yeah. And action really impresses me, and I think the same for Sean. So,
I think so too, because vice versa.
Yeah.
You know that I like to be sociable from time to time, so you arranged for us to go bowling with a couple of friends.
Yeah.
We went out for a couple of friends, we went bowling, we had some drinks, came home, the house was nice and clean, you cooked a meal and baked some cookies and shit.
Yeah.
You know, it's vice versa. Happy in a relationship because we both give a shit about each other and do things for no reason whatsoever.
Yeah.
You know, I gave you a massage the other night, half expecting nothing in return.
He wanted a BJ.
But got something in return. Way.
I think also compliments is a big one.
Massive,
I would say that we probably
10 a day we say,
at least. I would say we honestly compliment each other like 10 to 15 times a day.
Even if it's just funny and
as long as it's a joke, but you still mean
cute.
it.
Yeah, we do still mean it.
But. Yeah, like I think that I know people will say. Then it kind of loses the meaning. I don't think it does. No. I think it kind of enhances how much you care about that person, and it'll just be something small. Like I'll be like, oh, your bum looks cute in those shorts, or like, oh, look at your little smile, or
how you address each other.
Yeah, exactly. Like, hey, cutie, or hey, handsome, or beautiful. Whatever. Yeah,
my gorgeous girl.
So I think like compliments are really, really important. They also show your partner that you're interested in them and still affectionate.
Yeah.
And I think females in particular really love compliments. It makes us feel confident, and the more confident we feel, the more we want to bang ya. So any guys listening, more compliments.
And don't be selfish in the bedroom.
More sexy time.
Guys,
yeah, that's a big one.
Ladies like orgasms too.
Pleasure your ladies.
Yeah.
I think what are the last ones? Okay, happiness.
Dogs.
Dogs are a big one. I think they brought us a lot closer together. And I would say, the last one, and probably the one that I probably live by in this relationship, is I speak to Sean the way that I would want someone else to speak to me.
Yeah.
So I think I used to get frustrated and angry in relationships and say things that I didn't mean. And I don't think that's a good enough excuse sometimes. But I mean, sometimes I'll, get a little bit grumpy or whatever, a bit moody, but I don't think I've ever said to him, I hate you, or you're an asshole.
You never call me a name.
You're a dickhead, or any of that.
I don't think you've ever called me a name.
Never, ever said any of that to you. I'd say, like, I'm frustrated with you right now, like, or I'm something with you right now, like, I'm a little bit upset with you or something like that. But I think directly attacking someone and calling them a name is really not a nice place in a relationship, and I don't think either of us have ever done that. And I think that allows you to keep respecting the person too, because as soon as someone uses that kind of language with you, you're a bit like, I don't really respect you anymore.
Yeah, fuck you.
Yeah, exactly. And then it gets really toxic.
Someone calls you a name, your instant response is fuck you. You shouldn't really talk to each other that way.
No. What about you? I need to finish up.
No, I think that's perfect, actually. I think another thing is women need to talk to us guys sometimes like we're children, because we're fucking stupid.
Oh, we're so stupid.
Yeah, like you need... we're not cryptic.
They can't read our minds.
We're not cryptic people. So literally spell it and be exact.
You can't get annoyed at them for not doing something if you don't tell them. I think that's something that I've learned. I had to say to you the other day, I feel a little disconnected. And you were like, oh, really? I don't understand why. And then I had to say why. And you were like, oh, I get it now. You're at home by yourself. I'm with people. Like, okay, that makes sense. And then I was a bit like, well, same thing when we have a kid. Is it just going to be me and this baby at home all the time? I feel like I'm worried I'm going to get, depression or blah, blah, blah. And I think they're all important conversations to have. So, like if you have something to say, don't beat around the bush. Like, get to the point, because guys sometimes will get confused and not understand what you mean, or they'll take it the wrong way.
I'll completely own that.
Yeah, so I think that's important. Like, even sometimes with, like, bedtime stuff, like in the bedroom, like I'll, be sitting on the couch and I'll be, I don't know, kind of falling asleep, and Sean will take that as a hint that I don't want to bang, but it's more that I'm just waiting for him to put a move on me. So I think you've kind of just got to go, okay, and then as a girl...
Well, we had that conversation. I was like, well, okay, I'm just going to throw you over my shoulder regardless. And we're just going to go for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because otherwise it's like, oh, weren't you? Are you into it? You're not? It's like, fuck it, just go for it.
Yeah, exactly. All right, last one I want to touch on is probably FIFO relationships, and then we'll be done. My top tips, because obviously I've been in a FIFO relationship, so probably a few more tips than what Sean has, but he trains a lot of guys who are FIFO. So number one thing is understand, dudes, when you come back, your lady already has a schedule.
100%.
So she already has a, say,
she'll hate you for the first couple of days.
Or the opposite. I used to really enjoy the first few days and then start to get annoyed with them because then they'd be like, in my business.
Yeah.
So understand that they have a full-time schedule, and it's almost important for you to fit into that schedule rather than expecting them to drop everything to spend every minute with you. Ladies, on the other end, if you are the person at home, or gents, whoever is the FIFO person, try to make more time for them when they're back. Move some things around in your schedule, or pre-plan. So a lot of my girls will do like a fat loss phase when their partner's away for 3 weeks, and then the week they come back, we do a diet break, so they can be more relaxed and they can go out and eat. Plan time together, plan dates, let your partner know their schedule so that they can then hang out with their friends or their mates on the times that you can't spend with them. Because I used to get annoyed when my partner would come back and then he'd have boys' nights on a night I'd planned us to like go to dinner or something, and then he'd expect me to just drop everything during the day because I was a PT. He'd be like, "Oh, we'll just cancel your clients." And I'm like, that doesn't work.
It's
like
$100 per session.
Why we ran into a few problems in the relationship. So I think respecting each other's jobs. I don't think he really respected like what I did and how important it was that I went to work. So yeah, all of those sort of things. I would say another tip for FIFO is understand that the first few days back, your partner's probably going to be really tired. And as much as you might be excited to see them, it's probably best to just let them to have a couple of days to chill and not nag them. Don't come home and then nag him because he's dropped his clothes, you know, on the bathroom floor and hasn't packed them away. Because he's tired. He's just been working 14, 18-hour days. Give him a couple of days grace period. I think allow that. And then if they're leaving their shit everywhere, 4th or 5th day in, then be like, dude, come on, like, give me a hand.
That's right. It's talk to us like a child.
Yeah, exactly.
You left your clothes on the floor again.
Yeah, you're not coming back and then having me be mum to you. Like, that's not attractive.
No.
When you have to treat a guy like your son, like, it's not really a sexy thing. No. Like, you want to date a man.
That's respect as well.
So what would be your last tips for FIFO dudes?
I actually think you nailed it, to be honest. I think scheduling each other into your plans is a really good thing. Making them prior to coming home, even.
Having him be aware or her.
Yeah. I think giving each other your space as well, even though you've been apart for a couple of weeks
or whatever. Spend every minute together.
Exactly. You know.
Still go hang out with your girlfriends. Just because your partner's back from FIFO, it doesn't mean you got to hang out with him straight for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Like, and then when all your friends just think, oh, well, they're only going to hang out with me because their partner's away.
Yeah.
Like,
no, I think you nailed it.
Yeah.
Spot on.
I think also do things like if your partner wants to spend time with the boys or his guy mates and you want to go to dinner with him, then maybe if you've got mutual friends, like all go out together. You know, then kills 2 birds with 1 stone. He gets to see his friends and you get to spend time with him. I guess I'm probably not like a super needy girlfriend, so it's probably a bit different for me. But I think it depends on, the individual in that situation. So our short podcast ended up being an hour and a half, so we're going to wrap it up there. Anything you want to finish with? This podcast will be going live around the end of January. So anything coming up in
February?
Not really.
Not really, no. I mean, we're launching the coaching code next week.
It'll literally probably be
so
going...
it'll be
live now.
Once this is released, it'll be live,
Yeah, our next intake will be in May. So if you have any questions or you missed the January one, because we did manage to sell that out, which is fantastic. I guess guests for podcasts, upcoming podcasts, email us, either info@aliceround.com or sean@mcleanytrain.com. And you
Maybe we should get some form of love expert or whatever on, because it will be Valentine's Day.
If they enjoyed the relationship,
let us know.
If
be
you're
honest.
like, this was fucking boring and we're not interested in your love life.
This is a relationship between you lot and us.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, we're open to constructive criticism.
Yeah.
If you're like, fuck, that was boring, I didn't listen, all right, we won't do it again.
It's like when Sean doesn't shave and I'm like, fuck, you look ugly.
Yeah, well, I do, I get a big head when I don't shave and when I haven't had a haircut. Then all of a sudden I have a haircut and it looks like my head's half the size.
Handsome.
Yeah, you're like, oh, damn.
It's like when I wash my hair.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, you look
put makeup
really
on.
nice today. I washed my hair.
Put some foundation on. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Bodies, Barbells and
Bagels.
And we will chat to you very soon.
See ya.